Yo, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Welcome to the live stream. Welcome to the live stream. So, before we get started, please leave a like, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel grow. So let's jump into it. So, we're going to be talking about um, Archie Manning, right? And whether or not Archie Manning is going to receive the Shedeur Sanders treatment. Now, if we watch football, if we're fans of the NFL, we watch the draft, we all saw the fall of Shedeur Sanders. And I don't think I can remember, since I've been watching the NFL and watching the draft, if there has ever been a more polarizing character such as Shedeur Sanders that has had such an epic slide in the NFL draft. Now, you read a lot of those stories and the reports, and it says that some teams was turned off by the fact that Shedeur Sanders was really kind of arrogant, really cocky. He didn't do the Senior Bowl. He didn't really do anything at the NFL Combine. He declined a lot of interviews, and it was almost like he was interviewing teams and not the other way around, where teams was interviewing him, right? So some people said that held him back, but what I personally think held Shedeur Sanders back, and the reason why I'm saying this about Archie Manning is because of who both of these young men are, right? So we all know who Deion. Well, I'm going to assume we all know who Deion Sanders is, right? So Deion Sanders is a Hall of Famer, NFL great, and probably on most people's list, Deion Sanders is the greatest the greatest cornerback ever to play the game, right? So we know that Shedeur Sanders and Shallow Sanders, both who play football, both who are now on NFL teams, but was coached by their father, Deion Sanders. We know that they have a lot of pressure that they have to, live with because who their father's name is, and they've always been in the spotlight ever since they've been pretty much little kids. Now we pivot to Archie Manning, right? Now Archie Manning has the golden name, right? The legacy, his family is the Manning family, right? And so he possibly could get the Shedeur Sanders treatment. And I'm going to elaborate to what I mean by that, here in a few minutes. Archie comes from a, NFL royal family, right? The grandson of the great Archie Manning, the nephew of Peyton and Eli. When we're talking about NFL royalty, I don't think it gets any better than the Manning last name, right? But with that last name, it comes with a lot of expectations and a lot of pressure because, if we start more recently with Eli Manning, right? Besides his bad years with the New York Giants, when he got benched and all of that good stuff, when he was in his prime, Eli Manning was Tom Brady's kryptonite, right? The great Tom Brady. Eli Manning was his kryptonite. Now, if we go a little bit further in the past, right, we're talking about Peyton Manning, right? Peyton Manning, the all-world quarterback, franchise saver for the Indianapolis Colts. Had the neck injury. The Colts kind of gave up on him. He went to the Broncos and won, another Super Bowl, right? And then you got the dad, right? The dad played for the New Orleans Saints, and then the brother, the brother, he was no slouch either. He played football at Ole Miss, but he had some type of neck or back injury, and he was no longer able to play football. But from what I've seen from his highlights, the brother was one hell of a wide receiver at Ole Miss. So that's Archie Manning. That's Archie Manning's. That's his dad or whatever. So it's a lot of pressure. Now, again, the Shedeur Sanders saga, right? Shedeur Sanders was one hell of a quarterback to watch at Jackson State. He was one hell of a quarterback to watch at Colorado, right? Say what you want to say about the running record, him getting his jersey retired, which I thought was I thought it was a little bit over the top. I think Deion Sanders definitely had something to do with, his son's jersey being retired. Now I can see Travis Hunter jersey being retired, but Shedeur, you are a great quarterback, but you have to, you didn't win at a very high level in college football. And I understand that Colorado pretty much had really nothing to compare it to for some time. Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, and that team that Deion Sanders put together in Colorado was the best thing smoking for that Colorado team in a long time. But either way, I don't want to I don't want to keep going on about the retirement of the jersey. But I think what I mean by is Archie Manning going to get the Shedeur Sanders treatment, and this is why I'm saying it. I think because who Deion Sanders is, right? He has a lot of friends in all across all sports, right? Golf, baseball, basketball, football, right? This is prime, right? Prime time. Deion Sanders, right? Has a lot of friends in sports media. Still has a lot of friends in these NFL organizations. I think the problem was that teams was too afraid to tell Deion Sanders in that camp, right? The Shedeur Sanders camp, what they really thought about Shedeur Sanders. There's a guy on YouTube. His YouTube channel is called Football Analysis, right? And he has all of the prospects that's coming out of college that's going to the NFL. Their game tape, right? Like he gets all of their game tape. So he had Jaden Daniels, he had Cam Ward, he had Shedeur Sanders, right? And I watched Shedeur Sanders, a lot of his game tapes, and I watched a lot of Cam Ward's game tapes, but let's focus on Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders, his issue is one of the biggest issues that I've seen was he doesn't throw his wide receivers open. He waits for his wide receivers to come open, right? And in the NFL, you just can't do that, right? You have to have great anticipation. So you got to know, okay, this wide receiver is going to be running this route. In this break in the route, there should be a window that I can throw the ball, and he should be able to, have some room to maneuver to catch the ball, right? Sometimes Shedeur Sanders had an issue with that, right? The patting of the ball, right? That the patting of the ball that he was doing that, I think, is because he was kind of anticipating, he was kind of like stressing, waiting for the wide receiver to come open on the route. And I think that's why he did a lot of the patting of the ball. I think that Shedeur Sanders has great pocket presence and mobility. He does hold on to the ball a lot. He took some unnecessary sacks, but his offensive line at Colorado was also trash. But I think that the college football world hype beast and the NFL hype beast is two different things, right? So I think that the college football hype beast hyped Shedeur Sanders way up into our psyche that Shedeur Sanders was a first-round draft pick, right? And a lot of NFL teams didn't have him as a first-round draft pick. They had him maybe second or third. And because of who his dad is, right? His dad is Deion Sanders, teams was afraid to tell it to him straight, give it to him gun barrel straight, right? And so what they did was they probably just blew smoke up Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders' camp's ass, to say the least, and had them feeling really confident that it was going to be, maybe the number one overall pick or definitely a top 5, top 10 pick in the NFL draft. And that didn't happen for Shedeur Sanders. He was picked 144. Now, let's go to Archie Manning, right? Arch Manning. He comes from the same football royalty that Shedeur comes from, right? Now, Shedeur, Archie may come from an even more prestigious football family because both uncles, right? Peyton's already in the Hall of Fame. Eli probably is going to go to the Hall of Fame because of his last name and, their dad, right? And so, that whole family is, that whole family has a lot of, football greatness to it, right? And so now you have Archie Manning. Archie Manning is also a very hyped up person, right? I remember when he was in high school, he played high school football right here in Louisiana, right? And I remember when he was in high school, you saw all of these. Every time you saw Archie Manning run or score or throw, people were, all over social media, like really, hyping him up, right? And he played at Newman High School, which is a private school in New Orleans, right? And we know a lot of these private schools play against very trash teams, right? A lot of these private schools are really small. They run like really simple offenses, and the competition really is in the public school system. But if you go back and you watch a lot of Archie Manning's high school highlights, it was being showed on ESPN and all of these sports media channels when the dude was in high school, just because of what his last name was. And there was a lot of hype about where he was going to go, whether he was going to commit to LSU, was he going to go to Ole Miss, was he going to go to Texas, right? Was he going to go to Georgia? Was he going to go to Alabama? So Arch Manning has always had this hype going into it. And then when he showed up to Texas, right? I don't know if y'all remember this, but there was the Texas Media Day, right? And literally there's a picture of Quinn Ewers sitting by himself at the Texas Media Day while all of the reporters and everyone else was at the Archie Manning table asking him questions, right? So the hype beast has always been now for Archie Manning. And now you have to think about, okay, what's coming behind Archie Manning? You got Peyton Manning, you got Eli Manning, you got the daddy, right? So our NFL team's gonna be honest with the Archie with the Manning family, right? Are they gonna pull a Shedeur Sanders treatment, right? Are they gonna see something in Archie Manning's game where they don't like, but because the hype beast is saying, hey, this is Archie Manning, he comes from a great NFL family. Do we have to sugarcoat and hide how we really feel about Archie Manning as a NFL prospect at quarterback, because we don't want to ruin our relationship with Peyton Manning, with Eli Manning, right? And we all know that Peyton Manning word around the NFL, just like Tom Brady, they got the power to persuade some teams, right? Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, their word is like law sometimes in the NFL, right? If Peyton Manning or Tom Brady criticize a rule too much, or criticize the referees, or criticize something about the NFL what they don't like, the NFL, Roger Goodell and those people, they're going to take note, and they're probably going to try to do something to, maybe get back in the good graces of, Tom Brady and, Peyton Manning. And Tom Brady now is a he has ownership in the Las Vegas Raiders, and he is a NFL commentator. So Tom Brady definitely has a lot of power. So with him, that's what I'm saying, with him and Peyton Manning, those guys got power. If they say something, it may be shit. It may leave a lot of teams shaking, right? A lot of GMs, a lot of insiders, right? And so are these NFL GMs really gonna want to tell the truth about Archie Manning? Now, I've watched a few of Archie Manning's games, right? And I'm gonna be honest with you. Nothing about Archie Manning's game that I saw, at Texas, right? Nothing about Archie Manning's game that I saw at Texas, in the games that he did start when Quinn Ewers was hurt, really had my jaw like on the floor, right? Archie Manning is a good quarterback, but to me, in those games that I saw him play, it wasn't nothing that was like magnificent, right? It wasn't like Caleb Williams, it wasn't like Jaden Daniels, right? It wasn't even like Cam Ward, right? But obviously it's Texas. Texas has a very big platform, and then the last name, right? And then so a lot of that was hyped up. But if you gotta think about it, right? Archie Manning couldn't even beat out Quinn Ewers. Facts are facts. Archie Manning came in with all of the hype, but he couldn't even beat out Quinn Ewers, right? Quinn Ewers had a lot of ups and downs at Texas, right? If he wasn't, throwing picks or just not making the throws that he had to make to win big games, he was hurt, right? He wasn't available. And so Archie Manning, if he really was that good, I think would have been able to beat out Quinn Ewers because let's be honest, right? I salute Steve Sarkisian for remaining loyal to Quinn Ewers, but I think if you talk to Steve Sarkisian behind closed doors, if you talk to a lot of the people that's inside of that Texas football organization, they would have tell you that they probably would have liked to pivot from Quinn Ewers to Archie Manning a lot earlier. But that's just what I think that they would say, right? But I don't know. I didn't see anything so shocking and so magnificent about Archie Manning's game that would have me believing that Archie Manning is just going to be this guy who's going to be able to take Texas to a national championship and win it and really put Texas back on the map when we're talking about winning national championships. So we know Texas went to the playoffs last season. They got wallywhopped, but it's been a minute since Texas has actually played in and for a national championship. So I don't see Archie Manning being that dude for this Texas team. And now that he is the big guy on campus, he really is the big guy on campus, right? Because Quinn Ewers is gone, and I don't know who else is on that Texas roster that's going to be really pushing Archie Manning. But now that he actually is in the limelight, right, and now all of these scouts are going to be coming to see him. All of these NFL insiders, these analysts, all of the people that pride and poke and dig, right? They're really going to be going over Archie Manning's game with a fine-tooth comb. And you're going to start seeing a lot of positives. You're going to start seeing a lot of negatives. And you're going to see a lot of hype, right? He's already projected to be a first-round draft pick at quarterback, right? And so you're going to see a lot of the college football analysts do what they do, right? Hyping him up, Kirk Herbstreit, Joel Klatt, right? Colin Cowherd, a lot of these guys, right? They're going to hype this kid up, right? They're going to hype him up. And then where the real process comes in at, where the real grading comes in at is when those scouts start to, push information back to their front offices, to their different teams. And these scouts start talking and these teams really start taking note of what's going on, right? Because they're going to pay a lot of attention to Archie Manning, in those big games, right? They got a big game versus Ohio State. They got a few other big games, right? It's the SEC, so a lot of those SEC games are really big games, right? So those scouts are going to be paying a lot of attention to Archie Manning's game, right? And so that's when you're going to start seeing those negative things come out of Archie Manning. But our NFL team's going to want to keep it real with the Manning family and say, hey, this is what we see, and this is what he needs to work on. And if he doesn't work on it, he's not a surefire first round draft pick. He maybe not even be a short, he won't be a day one quarterback, or hell, he might not even be a day two quarterback. But will they be honest with the Manning family? Now you could say, Daryl, okay, Peyton Manning and Eli Manning are both Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and they're going to be able to identify flaws and weaknesses in Archie Manning's game that Dion probably couldn't see in his son's game because, one, Dion played wide receiver and cornerback in the NFL, and so maybe he's not super sped up on all of the processes and the nuances of playing quarterback, right? He is a head coach, right? But their specialties, right? Now, Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, they played quarterback, right? They played quarterback in high school. They played it in college. They played it in the NFL. They played in Super Bowls. They won Super Bowls. They have a little bit more know-how and a little more skin in the game on critiquing quarterbacks. So you can say, okay, are these guys going to be able to see some of the glaring weaknesses in Archie Manning's game and be able to rectify that stuff before the NFL draft, or even, leading up to the NFL draft and after it, so they can, whether it's just tightening up his mechanics, his timing, his ball placement, or what have you, right? Who better to learn from than two greats like Eli and Peyton? So you can look at it that way, right? Maybe the Manning camp, they seen what Shedeur Sanders went through, and they may have a better playbook, a better plan of attack on how to get Archie ready for this NFL process. Now, there's also people who said that Shedeur Sanders was just too arrogant, right? And people are going to say he's too arrogant, he's too flashy, and people are going to say that Archie Manning is a little bit more conservative, a little bit more button up, right? He's not flashy, he's not arrogant, he's not cocky. So people are going to point to that maybe being a little bit of Shedeur Sanders' downfall. But I strongly believe that the reason why Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders were so shocked is because these GMs, these insiders that's connected to these front offices in the NFL, they just lied to him. They lied to Shedeur Sanders. They lied to his camp. They had him thinking that he was going to be the next coming of Jesus, right? That he was going to be this all-world quarterback, that he was going to come in and set the league on fire. And so he had the big head. He was very cocky and arrogant. He had the big head going into the NFL combine and the draft and all that stuff. And, he got humbled, right? He got picked 144th, right? So do I project Archie Manning to have the same type of slide as Shedeur Sanders? I don't think so. And it's because, people learn from other people's mistakes, right? And so you're going to see Archie Manning doing all of the right thing, right? He's going to be buttoned up. He's not going to be too high on himself, right? He's going to seem really presidential, real CEO-like, just like Peyton Manning was, just like Eli Manning was, right? You're going to see that starting this year when he starts to take the podium at before Texas Longhorn games and after, right? You're gonna see him, right, being that CEO, being real buttoned up, right? He's gonna take that playbook from both of his uncles, right, from Peyton and Eli. And so I don't think that one of his cons is gonna be like, oh, he's arrogant, he's cocky, he's just kind of like really brash, like they were saying about Shedeur. But I think some of the things that they're gonna be very critical on is his game, right? His game on the field. And I just don't know if GMs and scouts or these teams are really going to want to be brutally honest with the Manning camp, because again, they don't want to risk ruining their relationship with the Manning camp, just like they didn't want to risk ruining their relationship with Deion Sanders, who has a lot of friends in the NFL and who has, Deion Sanders can pick up the phone and call probably any NFL owner and talk to him, right? Probably be able to call any NFL GM and talk to him, right? And so I just think that a lot of these teams was just too afraid to give, Shedeur Sanders camp this brutal feedback, right? And so I would have to think that a lot of these GMs and these people that's inside of these NFL camps are definitely going to probably pull some punches when it comes time to being brutally honest about Archie Manning, right? Now, there's some chitter chatter that says the reason why the New Orleans Saints didn't draft Shedeur Sanders is because they're pretty much, the guy that they got, right, that the guy that they drafted, people are saying that, yeah, he has a lot of talent, he has some wow factor to him, but no one is really expecting him to light the league on fire. And so the Saints just got him as a bridge quarterback, just drafted a quarterback to make their fans feel happy, because now we know that Derek Carr retired, but before that, they were saying that, Derek Carr was mad that the Saints was thinking about pivoting away from him. So he was going to have a shoulder surgery or some type of shoulder procedure that was going to possibly keep him out for all of the 2025 season. But now that we're saying, now he retired, right? But the Saints drafted a quarterback to be like, oh, look, we're really trying to improve the position. But they're saying that the Saints are probably really waiting for Archie Manning to come out of college, because the family has roots in New Orleans, right? Archie played in New Orleans in high school. The grandpa played for the New Orleans Saints, right? And so that's what they're saying. They're saying that the Saints, that's why the Saints passed on Shedeur Sanders, because they really wanted Archie Manning. I don't know. That's just when you saw, reading some of the articles and reading some of the, reports from some of these insiders. That's just some of the things that they'll be saying. And so, that's why I'm getting that from. But I mean, it make a lot of sense because, again, the name, the location, New Orleans, right? It all makes sense, right? I would see either New Orleans trying to go after Archie Manning or Garrett Nussmeier at LSU. But I think if they had to pick between the two, they would pick Archie Manning, because who doesn't want to have that wealth of knowledge and have that access inside of your building pretty much every day? In terms of Archie Manning, in terms of Eli and Peyton Manning, right? Kellen Moore is the new head coach of the New Orleans Saints, right? And now Kellen Moore played quarterback at a high level at Georgia State. He had a little bit of success in the NFL. Won a Super Bowl as an offensive coordinator with the Eagles, and now he is, the head coach of the Saints. So he played quarterback. But think about it, right? You get into Archie Manning, not only is your head coach a former NFL quarterback and college quarterback, but now you have a Hall of Fame quarterback in the building in Peyton Manning, and a Super Bowl winning quarterback in both Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, right? So the Saints would pretty much feel like they struck gold if they was able to draft Archie Manning and then have access to both uncles, right? And so it makes sense to me why I would see the Saints kind of like drafting a little known commodity like the guy that they drafted at quarterback, expecting to kind of struggle, and then towards the end, really start to pull those fillers out at the end of the season that, the Saints are going 100% going to go balls to the wall to try to get Archie Manning. So I don't see that as being far-fetched. But yeah, is Archie Manning in danger of getting the Shedeur Sanders treatment? And my final answer is yes, he is in danger of getting the Shedeur Sanders treatment, because I just don't think that these men and women in these front offices inside of the NFL are going to want to be honest with the Manning family, the same way how they refuse to be honest with the Sanders family is because of the name and who are some of the family members with that last name. Deion Sanders, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, Archie Manning Sr. So, yes, how does Archie Manning control, this situation? I think him and his team, they just have to be really buttoned up, right? They just have to be really buttoned up. They have to take every opportunity presented to him, right? So, Shedeur Sanders didn't go to the Senior Bowl. He didn't do anything at the combine, right? His interviews was really kind of like snood and kind of like arrogant, you know what I mean? So Archie Manning just has to learn from Shedeur Sanders's mistakes, right? Now, do I think Shedeur Sanders can play? Hell yeah. I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be the starter. I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be the starter for the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns have a lot of quarterbacks in that quarterback room. They got Dylan Gabriel, the Oregon quarterback. They have Kenny Pickett. They have Deshaun Watson. They have Joe Flacco. But I think that Shedeur Sanders is going to find himself as the starter come week 1 or at least week 2, because the Browns are looking for, to have some more hype right around that organization. I remember the buzz and the hype that was around the Browns organization when Baker Mayfield was the quarterback, and now the Browns have Shedeur Sanders. So Shedeur Sanders is definitely going to sell merchandise. He's definitely going to sell tickets. And I do think that Shedeur Sanders is going to be the starter of the Cleveland Browns come week 1, definitely around week 2. And so do I think Shedeur Sanders is an NFL quarterback? Yes. Do I think Archie Manning is an NFL quarterback? Yes. Where Archie Manning is going to go, I don't know. And will teams really be brutally honest about their cons of Archie Manning? I'm going to say no. And so the best way for Archie Manning to control that, him and his camp, is just to take every opportunity they get to silence the critters. I mean the critics wrong, and to be a little bit more in tune and open to the whole draft process, right? Take interviews with all of the teams that Shedeur Sanders didn't do. Participate in the combine or have better interviews in the combine. And if there's an opportunity for you to go to a the college football's version of all pro game, right? Like the Senior Bowl or the East West Bowl or the Shriners Bowl or whatever it is, right? Because I think Archie Manning is going to be an underclassman this year if he leaves for the draft rights. I think he's going to be a junior, if I'm not mistaken, a redshirt junior or whatever. Either way, if there's an opportunity for him to go play in one of these games, I think he should, right? And that way, that narrative would be away from him that says that he's arrogant and he's cocky. That doesn't strike me when I see Archie Manning. It doesn't strike me at all. But I just think that his biggest hindrance is going to be his last name, because again, teams are just not going to want to risk offending Peyton Manning or Eli Manning. So if teams do say anything negative about Archie Manning, it's going to be anonymous, right? And because they just don't want to offend them, defend that family, right? But now that you see after the draft, a lot of things are coming out about why Shedeur Sanders had an epic slide, and you start seeing some things coming out maybe a week before the draft. But I think that the Deion Sanders camp, the Shedeur Sanders camp, was really high on the horse, and they didn't think that they was going to have a slide. And I don't think that I don't think they was in tuned to some of the negativity that was coming around, that was around Shedeur Sanders' name going into the NFL draft. All right, so y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Is Archie Manning at risk of getting some of that Shedeur Sanders treatment, right? We just call it the Shedeur Sanders treatment 2.0, right? Or do y'all think that Shedeur Sanders got what he got is because of who he is, right? Because maybe he was a little bit too arrogant or a little brash? Or do y'all think that maybe I'm just completely off my rocker and none of this is going to happen to Archie Manning? Y'all let me know in the comment section below. As always, thanks for the support. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment. That really helps my channel get popping, right? If YouTube see that you are leaving a like and commenting, they're going to figure out, okay, people really like this content, and they're going to start pushing it out to yourself more often and more people like you who like this type of content, right? All right. So until next time, it's your boy, and I'm out.